It was very big sense of hope when you are in jail and you know that society and people who support you know uh, the true story. When too many people in society talk, government is pushed to act differently. I don't understand why they release me. And I have thought in my head that every minute I have risk that police cut me in, and bring me to the prison again. But that day was, it's very hard to explain in English for me now. I think it was one of the happiest days in my life.
Were you too young to know you were a girl or a boy?
Oh, I hated the skin that I was in. I thought I was ugly. I thought I was unlovable. I couldn't leave my house without people staring at me or making rude remarks.
There is a sense, I think, or a message that many of us have received that it's okay to be a Jew as long as you're the right kind of Jew.
Just imagine what it would be like for you when you get out of prison after, 10 years in there for something you didn't do.
Approximately 6 or 7 policemen attacked me and put in my pocket a big quantity of drugs.
If we can choose how we live well, then do we not have the right to choose how we die well? And how do we do that with dignity?
There's never a moment where I am not in pain. It's exhausting, is the bottom line, is what it is.
I was born with a congenital limb difference. My arm, I have my elbow, but it was like underdeveloped from here out.
54% of those with disabilities are not working. If you're an employer, hire somebody with a disability. You won't regret it.
I've learned that us neurotypical people are the people who really need to learn from neurodiverse individuals. We are the aliens of this planet.
Welcome to Purposeful Empathy, a show that is dedicated to amplifying the voices of people from across the globe who understand the world needs more empathy and are doing something about it. This season will inspire you to empathize with people who are regularly marginalized and misunderstood. You won't want to miss a single episode, so hit the subscribe button now. Thanks for watching and enjoy the show. Today on Purposeful Empathy, I'm joined by Giorgi Akhobadze, an anesthesiologist from Tbilisi who became a political activist and a popular voice of resistance against rising authoritarianism in his country. As a vocal opponent of Georgia's so-called Russian law, in December 2024, Dr. George, as he's known to his family and friends, was arrested and imprisoned on drug charges, largely seen as politically motivated. During his time behind bars, his beloved mother passed away, but his spirit was never broken, largely thanks to resounding public support and pressure on the government to free him. After 8 months of incarceration, he was declared not guilty, and his release sparked hope across the nation. In this conversation, we explore the psychic toll of being a political prisoner and why Dr. George continues to fight for democracy in a country sliding further and further toward autocracy. If you care about human rights and want to better understand the human cost of political repression, this show is for you. Welcome to the show, Dr. George. Just to say at the onset to the listeners and viewers, I want everyone to know that you are a longtime dear friend of my husband, and we have been paying attention to your story over the last 12 or 18 months very closely, and we celebrated with tears in our eyes when we had the news in August that you were freed. But it has come at a political cost. So I think what would be very important is to shape the conversation we're going to have with a little bit of backstory. So I'd like to get to know you a little bit. I'd like the viewers and the listeners to get to know you. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself before all of this political action.
I'm a doctor. I'm anesthesiologist and critical care doctor. I worked in Tbilisi and in Marneuli, it's a city near Tbilisi, in different hospitals. Main occupation was in cardiac surgery, in congenital heart defects, and in adult cardiac surgery. And from 2020, my activities become more prominent from 2020. And in 2023 was first attempt of so-called Russian law. And from 2023, I have a channel on TikTok. I have some videos, some provocative videos, we can say, about governmental propaganda. And I tried to neutralize its message. And beside this, I have some activities on the street during riots and during collisions with police forces.
So let's get into that in a second, but I want for people who don't know anything about Georgia. So prior to meeting my husband, I don't think I knew much about Georgia. So let's do a little education. Tell us a little bit about your country, and then let's talk about the politics of your country. But first, let's get to know Georgia, Sakartvelo.
Sakartvelo, it's a little country in Caucasus. It was part of Soviet Union until 1991. From 1991 to 2003, we have very stagnant period of history with corruption. With Georgia was failed state. In 2003, we have so-called Rose Revolution. We was begin building of state with institutions, and step by step, Georgia become country that have functional institutions, more or less democratic. In 2008, Russia. We have war with Russia. They intervened our country with armed forces for regime change, but with support of US and European Union, we overcome this threat. And in 2012, with elections, with democratic elections, government was changed, and from 2012 we have a regime of Russian oligarch Bidzina Ivanishvili, and step by step, Bidzina Ivanishvili destruct all institutions. Everyone are under his control, court, police, every part of the state. And now we have from last 2 years, we have changes in our laws. That kind of changes regime in Georgia become autocratic, and now we have already signs of dictatorship.
It's an incredible country, 4 million people that brought in 7 million tourists in a year. And it was on the ascension, right? It had gone through this revolution. Yeah. It had survived the Russian invasion where my own husband bore arms. I imagine you were on the streets fighting as well. And like you said, the West came to support Georgia, thankfully. And then you've been through this moment of turning towards democracy. I mean, one of the most remarkable things that I saw with my own eyes is driving on the street and seeing that the police stations were wall-to-wall windows. And people was saying to me that was intentional design to make the country understand that we're going to be transparent from now on. We're not going to have these sidekicks and have the police involved in any unscrupulous stuff. So I fell in love with the country, but have been hearing through Hugh and his friends, and he's part of the diaspora now, but pays close attention to the politics, that even though Georgia has been wanting to get closer and closer to the European Union, and has made major strides, there is now a backlash that's happening.
Police in Georgia have used water cannon and tear gas to disperse people rallying in the capital Tbilisi against the controversial Foreign Influence Bill, which is seen as being Russian-inspired legislation targeting media freedoms and civil liberties. The country's Interior Ministry said that protesters confronted law enforcers, forcing them to use special means. The Georgian government plans to adopt the bill despite the protests and warnings from the EU that it could derail the country's integration into the European Union. The BBC's Ryan Dimitri sent this report from Tbilisi.
After more than 2 weeks of peaceful protests, Georgian police used water cannons to disperse the demonstrators in central Tbilisi. Riot police moved in to clear the main avenue outside parliament.
There's an announcement and warning from the police for protesters to disperse. The riot police have already used water cannons and pepper spray, urging to push these protesters out of the main avenue. But as we can see, they're booing. They're not planning to go anywhere.
Russians, Russians, they chant in reference to the government. The government which introduced a repressive law opposed by the protesters.
The government says they will push through this law.
They say that they push it, but they don't know that us Georgian peoples would rather die than be the slaves of Russians. We will die for Georgia, and we will never be the slaves of Russians.
As police used more force, the crowd became more defiant. Because they believe their government is acting in Russia's interests. These protests were sparked by a controversial bill that targets civil society and is seen as a threat to Georgia's democracy. On Monday, the country's governing party organized a mass rally in support of the bill. Its leadership accused the West and civil society organizations of attempting a revolution and pledged to adopt the bill to defend Georgia's sovereignty. Georgia is a candidate country to join the European Union. This long-awaited status was granted just a few months ago. But since the introduction of this bill, both Brussels and Washington warned that its adoption would derail the country from the EU. The ongoing crisis is now more than the fight against the undesired law. It has become the struggle for Georgia's European future. Rayhan Dimitri, BBC News, Tbilisi.
I wonder if you could speak to what's happening between the generations. There tends to be a generational divide. The younger generation is fighting back. The older generation tends to believe the words of the government, the pro-Russian government, which is kind of strange given that most of them lived through the Soviet era. They lived through the attempt to annex Georgia. So what do you have to say about the media's role in how things are unfolding?
In every generation, we have people who is under influence of propaganda from 50 years or 55. We have statistics that half of them believes governmental propaganda, but half of them understand what really happening in our country. But in young generations, under 30, under 25, we have 80% of normal thinking people and 20% under influence of propaganda. Because young generation have less contact with TV. With they input of information for young generations are different.
Yeah, traditional media.
Traditional media, yes,
And that tends to be beyond Georgia as well, right? So I want to take us back to the marches. You are outside. I've been on the street, this beautiful boulevard where there's tens of thousands of people marching against the Russian law. You're there as well. You, like you said, you've been an outspoken critic. You have a TikTok following where you're speaking passionately against the government. And what happens?
In 7th December, I was on Rustaveli Avenue. I have some food for protesters, and I was needed to return in home about 2 o'clock a.m. And on my way, a police patrol stopped me, and they said that they need to check my documents and they need identification of my person, and they asked me to go out from the car. And exactly that, in that moment when I opened the door and go out from the car, approximately 6 or 7 policemen attacked me. They put me on the hood of the police car, and I have sense of touching in my pocket. And they put on my pocket a big quantity of drugs. After this, we go to the Department of Police, some paperwork, and they put me in the. This is not a jail. This is it's not permanent permanent prison.
Like a detention center.
Detention center, yes. After 48 hours, I have first court, and they put me in a prison for 2 months, and the investigations, so-called investigations, begin, and after 1.5 months, I have a second court process, and we begin interchange, and policemen go to the court and say too many lies about this night.
And so
I was.
So forgive me, Dr. George. They arrest you. You can sense that they have planted a large quantity of drugs on you.
Yeah.
Do this so-called investigation, and the court does its process, and finally you are found guilty. I want to know how you were feeling. You're a man who's married. I've met your beautiful wife. You have a son. How are you feeling through this early process of the court hearing?
You know, my feeling was interchanging with each other. It was a little bit fair, a little bit, and I was angry, and I have sense that I need to fight, and if I fight until the end, I have some sense, inner sense, that I can win this process. And you know, this 8 months was not so long as a sensing. You know, it was a little episode of my life when I have very hard fights, and every time when I come to the court, I have some words to say, some positions to declare uh, uh, to the judge.
So I'm thinking about the rage you must have felt at the miscarriage of justice, and at the same time, not shortly after your, they found you guilty, and they said that you were going to spend 15 years in prison. That's not a joke.
Yeah.
In those early months, you were not able to provide the medical attention to your mother that she was receiving. You're a medical doctor. You were taking care of her.
Yeah.
As a result of being behind bars, she passed away. So you experienced that tragic loss. So your rage must have been through the roof.
Yeah, it was my uh, in my head. I have very bad, not feelings, but very bad plans about how I react, how I act to policemen, to the prosecutors, to the judges. But when times flow, uh, I know that I need some responses from them. Why they act that way to me. I'm not sure exactly what is inside of me about that episode, because it's some kind closed feelings and closed position. I don't want even think about this.
Yeah,
And
a lot of self-restraint, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And so I wonder if you could speak to not specifically your case, but you are among, and I'm going to just call up some of the statistics on this, okay? I did some research that the US State Department estimates that there are 1 million individuals behind bars as political prisoners. Among them are individuals held unjustly for exercising human rights and fundamental freedoms, or they're detained because of their race, religion, ethnicity, or who they love. So I wonder if you could speak to the experience of being a political prisoner and how the general public needs to feel about political prisoners.
First of all, I think people need to understand environment where they live, and why these people, political prisoners, fight that way, that they put their lives and their freedom for this fight. What is their goals? Then we need to explain difference. What is prisoner who are in the jail for some bad action, and what is prisoner who is in jail for uh, fighting.
So while you were there for 8 months, many people in Georgia were supporting you. Many
Yeah,
people.
yeah, too many people.
So I would love to hear from your perspective how that support made a difference and what kind of support really helped.
Okay. Um, uh, it was very big sense of hope when you are in jail, and you know that society and people who support you know uh, the true story about you. Also, when too many people in society talks about your problem, about your story, government is pushed to act differently. I think police and government don't um, don't have expectations that support from society will be
So great.
that big. Mm.
So you feel that the public support that you received played a role in your release?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
sure.
100% for sure.
But there are many people still in prison right now as political prisoners. And what do you want to say about them?
After my freedom, every day are very hard for me because we was arrested almost together for our fight. And I can't stop. I can't stop fighting to their freedom because they are in prison without any real reason.
So what sustained you? You had hope, you had people who were writing to you. How did you spend your time in prison? And how was your relationship with the guards and other prisoners?
No. Relationship with guards and staff of prison was normal. They support me because they are not part of the regime. Mm, they know what really happening in country, but they don't have any forces to change something. We have some routine from morning to the night. And in prison you need some routine for the day, books, letters, television, some activities, some exercises, and time goes very fast in reality, because when you know that you are not guilty, in a sense are uh, different, I think. You know that you are in the prison for no reason, and when you in addition, when you see that fight is continuing, um, some kind of hope are inside you.
So how did your wife and son react to this whole experience?
I think my wife was in fight. She substitute me in the street. About my son, I think we need more time for discuss about this period of life. He don't like talk about this, and I don't push him. Maybe after a couple of years, or
When he's older.
after some period of time, we will talk about this period.
How old is he now?
Hmm?
How old is he?
He's 15 years.
Yeah. So those are the sacrifices, right? That it has an impact on your family.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the day you were released.
Oh, it was so strange senses. I have sense of fear combined with happiness, combined with some strange or weird senses inside me. I don't understand why they release me, and I have thought in my head that every minute I have risk that police cut me in. And bring me to the prison again. It was about 1 week, and after more or less, my emotions become normal. But that day was, it's very hard to explain in English for me now. But that moment in the yard of the court was too many people, and it was, I don't know, they celebrate me. I think it was one of the happiest day in my life, if we say shortly.
I would like to ask how you have the courage to continue fighting, even though now you know the real risks, and maybe you won't be so lucky in the future if you were ever convicted again of a so-called crime. How do you continue the fight, and how can you explain it?
Mhm. Now I think it's more hard to put me in the prison one more time for the government. We have some period of time, I think, society, we have period of time of efficient fight now, because every day is much harder than yesterday. And if I want to stay in this country and live here, I think that only thing that is required for this is continuing fighting for freedom. And sometimes I think that it's very risky. It's very risky. Mm, but I don't know what what give me the courage for this. It's something inside me that drives me for this action. And also the prisoners and other prisoners who are in prisons now.
Mhm.
It's one of the main reasons.
Yeah, I think it's so hard to explain in words how you can be driven by something as large as purpose around justice and the love of country and wanting to fight back against a regime that wants to take away rights. It's just larger than you. And I think that's why so many people admire you and were fighting for your release, because they recognize in you the purity of your conviction. So I want to just acknowledge that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So my I have two questions left, and then I will give you back your evening because right now it's quite late for you. The first question is, as people are listening or watching, what can they do to help Georgia?
Main support from outside of Georgia will be, I think, sanctions for enablers and for participants of this regime. Because only one thing that is for them important is money.
In one word, Dr. George, are you hopeful about the future of Georgia?
For my children and for from young generation, yes, I'm with hope. But for my generation, I don't know exactly. It's maybe 50-50, maybe less, because now we have very very hard situation in country. People are very suppressed, very in nihilistic mood, without hope. And they don't see alternative. What who can overcome this regime? Everyone are exhausted and tired with this fight.
So my last question, and this is the same question I ask all my guests on my podcast. It is a podcast about empathy. So I wonder if you can think of a moment in your life. It could be recently or it could be 10 years ago when you received empathy from someone else and what that meant for you.
Mm. I think biggest dose of empathy was last year, and it was main driving force for me to overcome this period in prison, to overcome every fear, to overcome every uh, every problem that I have. and this dose of love that comes from society was for me as a medication. Every wound was healed with the love from people. Every wound.
Yeah, I often say that empathy is the second most powerful human trait after love. And it sounds like empathy and love sustained you during your darkest period.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, Didi Madlova.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
watching
Thank you.
and listening. And we'll see you next week at Purposeful Empathy.
If you know someone who would benefit from this episode, please share it with them now. Post the link to your socials and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The world needs more empathy, and you have an important role to play.